Right, so do you remember a time, once upon a time, shall we say, when we used to mock Keir Starmer over the infamous James O'Brien quote on LBC, where he was putting the boot into Jeremy Corbyn, where he would used to say anyone but Corbyn would be 20 points ahead of the Tories. Starmer, of course, took over from Corbyn and failed to ever really trouble the Tories for a couple of years in the polls. And that was until Boris Johnson's scandalous partygate rule-breaking really started to gain a hold in public perception. And that finally led to a Labour lead, which then finally surpassed that 20-point threshold we never thought he would ever get, after Liz Truss moved into number 10 in her disastrous spending on tax breaks for the rich, which saw Labour hit a massive 37-point lead the following month. That was October of last year. The thing is, Labour didn't have to do anything to gain these polling leads. They hadn't earned them. They hadn't put anything on the table themselves. They just sat back, put their feet up with the popcorn and watched the Tories destroy themselves with scandal and incompetent idiocy. And let's face it, who doesn't love to sit and watch that? Starmer from day one has done nothing of note to build a lead. He's just ended up with one because of consequences. Now, Truss didn't last long, was replaced with Rishi Sunak, who has carried his own fair bit of baggage from Partygate. His wife and her Russian trading, still apparently going on, by the way, via her family firm Infosys. And then there's Sunak's alleged links to Moderna and profiting from the pandemic. But none of this has really been as detrimental to him as the widespread coverage of Johnson's wrongdoing, again back in the spotlight this week, as well as a very real impact on all of our finances, thanks to Liz Truss, still unashamed and unapologetic of the damage that she did to us all. Sunak, after all of that, has been perceived as a calmer influence, and certainly his recent successes with his Windsor Framework negotiation, although he's got a little bit of argy-bargy on his hands with his backbenchers at this moment in time, but his success with the EU over trade via Northern Ireland was widely welcomed. He's still a Tory, though. Trouble is, so is Starmer, really, and where he has benefited from sitting on his laurels whilst the Tories went to bits, things have settled down somewhat under Sunak, and Starmer's poll lead, little by little, has been ebbing away. No foundations to it as there are, built on sand, as it was. Now, the biggest shock to date came this week when DeltaPoll published their latest voting intention, which showed a 13-point swing to the Tories, with them gaining 8% and Labour losing 5%, leaving Labour with just a 10-point lead in their books. Now, this may be an outlier in its extremity, but other polls have been trending the same way. Take YouGov as another example. They are the ones that recorded that 37-point lead for Labour in October last year. But this week, they recorded just a 19-point lead. Their polls also having shown a week-by-week decline in Labour leads. We've also seen net approval ratings for Sunak improving, whilst at the same time in Starmer, they have been declining. Now, that's not to say all polls are showing such small leads. For example, supporters of Team Keith will readily point to People's Polling latest poll, showing a 25-point lead for Labour still. But that's dropped from 29 points just a month ago. It was 31 points a few months before that. So the same downward trend is being seen here. Different polling companies, different methodologies for measurement. No one poll should ever be taken notice of really in and of itself. But trends across different pollsters are much better indicators, and all are moving in the same general direction to greater or lesser extents. Starmer was predicted to get a lot of stonking great gains last May in the local elections, which turned out not to come to pass either. The expectation is, if anything, even higher this time round as we head into another round of May local elections. But I'm not inclined to believe they're going to pan out as expected this time either. Starmer offers nothing to vote for. His authoritarianism is driving voters and members away. He's losing candidates not only for those same reasons as well, but by his own hand as his party get rid of good councillors to replace them with red Tories instead. He's setting his own party up for general election failure. He's too busy trying to out-Tory the Tories to come up with any good reason for ordinary people to actually back him for something, assuming they're just going to come to him naturally anyway. Man of paralysing political inadequacy as he is, as sharp as a toffee apple, with all the usefulness of a handbrake on a canoe. At some point, Labour will have to realise they need rid of him to win in 2024. Because where people might still think a Labour landslide is on the cards, I don't. Not with a man that wooden, that beige and boring, that widely dislikable and dishonest as he is. I think Labour will be lucky to end up largest party if he takes them into the general election. And time really is ticking. Those poll leads, meanwhile, will continue to close. Thanks for watching. If you appreciated this video, please do hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment and hit the notification bell too so you don't miss the next one. Also, look out for me on social media and other interesting stuff by clicking on the Linktree link in the comments below. And I'll see you next time. Cheers, folks.